Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of ARM Trustees Succession Series. My name is Oluwatosin Oluyemi, and I have with me my colleague Seun Idowu. And together, we'll be discussing the future of trust for estate planning in an ever-changing world. In the past, we've had different series where we discuss the basics of estate planning. But today, we'll be talking about the specifics of the impact of technologies in estate planning. Seun, what are your views on this topic?
Thank you, Tosin. This is quite a broad subtopic, and I'm very sure that we can't exhaust this topic today. So, however, try to do some justice to it and share some opinions later on LinkedIn and the print media as time goes on. Estate planning today is quite dynamic, and it is because we live in a dynamic world, and people and businesses, all over the world are trying very hard to play catch up, especially as regards how technology affects everything, So on a primary level, we can talk about, say, the digitization of estate planning tools and automation of processes in the office. So you have things such as the e-wills, that's electronically generated wills, which are do-it-yourself, DIY. And on the secondary level, we can now look at deeper issues around, say, digital assets. Because we can't talk about estate planning without talking about assets, But now we have a second category of assets, digital assets. So what can qualify as these digital assets, and how do you treat them? How do you include them in an estate plan? That's a second layer to this topic. And on a more advanced level, maybe we can treat that in another episode. We can now talk about how artificial intelligence and design thinking, these are broader concepts, can solve issues, some of the well-known problems in estate planning in general, or how to even treat things like fractionalized assets. That's a new concept, and digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, for example. So those are topics that we'll broach later on. But anyway, so let's just continue.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Seun. So what type of digitization or automation are we talking about here?
Okay, let's start with, for example, the e-wills that I spoke about. You see, one of the primary aims of our work as estate planners is to make the entry into a plan as easy as possible, as seamless as possible. All over the world, I can tell you for a fact that there's that realization that technology will make it easier for people to gain access to estate planning knowledge. That's one, And so e-wills, for example, are becoming popular all over the world, and they make the estate planning journey quite easier. So you just have to do, all you just have to do is log into a portal, and write your will. It's as simple as that. A basic will, anyway. So when you want to get to a comprehensive will, a more complicated will, then of course you have to talk to planners like us or lawyers like us. So Tosi and I, for example, are lawyers. So that's one thing that is factual now. It has come to stay. E-wills. So of course, this doesn't also suggest that these portals will replace estate planners or lawyers. It's that it's a good way to start. You can start your journey, your estate planning journey from there. And thankfully, we at ARM have designed an e-will portal called EasyWill, and this has helped a lot of our customers start their estate planning journey.
Yes, yes, that's correct. And concerning this EasyWill, we'll have another session to discuss basically EasyWill in detail. And at the end of this session, we will share links to that portal. It is, as Sheon said, it's a do-it-yourself portal with carefully laid out instructions to follow. So now, Sheon, let's go to digital assets. What are digital assets?
Okay, so that's quite a broad topic. Or let me say the definition is quite broad. So digital assets are non-tangible assets. They can be held physically. But the distinct feature about them is that they are individuals can acquire them and store them, in digital formats, but they have value, so they have monetary or sometimes even sentimental value, talking about that now, do you have, I'm pushing the question back to you now, do you have any idea or do you want to speak to what you can identify as digital assets?
Yes, indeed. I do know we have cryptocurrencies, we have non-fungible tokens, we have the INERA, that's the central bank currencies. Then we have stable coins, we have security tokens, we have documents, audio files, video files, slide presentations. The list is endless.
Of course.
Yes,
of course.
yes.
It's interesting that you even spoke about files, and I'll give a good example, a personal example. I picked up photography, for example, as a hobby, say about 11 years ago. And one of the key things that has done is that I've now accumulated photographs over the last 11 years, say over 10,000 files. I have them stored in digital formats everywhere. So I have some online, stored in, cloud drives, and I have some in physical drives, and what that tells me is that, even though there's a clear distinction between traditional assets and digital assets now, this new format, digital assets, has come to stay, Some years ago, we didn't even have some of the digital formats, but now they're assets because they have monetary and sentimental value. So it's getting blurrier, or it's blurring out. So let me just go back to traditional assets. So traditional assets will speak to everything that is, like I said before, physical, that you can hold physically. But the digital assets include, as you have pointed out, things such as cryptocurrencies, NFTs, my photo files,
Definitely.
Everything in between, can go as far as social media accounts, email accounts, passwords, cloud storage accounts, like I mentioned, OneDrive. I use OneDrive and Google Drive. It's quite an inexhaustive list, and as we get older in this new world, one thing is certain, we're acquiring these assets daily, these digital assets daily. And we have to realize that we have to make plans for how to treat them when we are no longer around. Or some other eventuality. It doesn't have to be death, So who do you want to have access to those things? Facebook, for example, has something called a legacy contact. So what a legacy contact is simply that if I die today, I'm not afraid to talk about death. If I die today, who is the contact? Who is the legacy contact that Facebook will give access to my profile, my passwords, everything? So what the legacy contact will be able to do is have access to everything. That's a plan. If you think about it, it's a plan. I don't want it to fall in the hands of hackers. If you notice, for example, if you don't use your Facebook for a while, the possibility that a hacker will gain access to it is very high. You haven't changed the password in years and all those things. So those are the kind of things that we're talking about. So we want to make sure that digital assets are well taken care of.
Okay. Right. So a common question that comes from what we are discussing right now is how can digital assets be included in different estate planning measures? And I believe the answer to this is that digital assets can be embedded in, for instance, a trust where the settlor gives instructions on how these digital assets can be accessed, like giving the access codes or the passwords to the beneficiaries, so that ownership or transferring ownership rather can be seamless, and the beneficiaries would have access to whatever is needed to gain ownership of these digital assets. And so we can simply put that the trust will contain all the instructions as to how the assets will be treated or distributed. Thank you very much, Seun, for that as well.
Okay, so one more thing that I would like to add is that, in the future, we won't even have the word digital attached to the word assets. So it won't be like a prefix because the lines are already blurring. I was trying to make that point earlier between what a traditional asset is and what a digital asset is, and every asset will have a digital identity in the very near future. Or it's even happening now. What am I talking about? It's happening now that every asset will have a digital identity that will be linked to an owner. So there will be a record of ownership, that will be protected, for example, by blockchain technology. So maybe the blockchain part is the part that is maybe in the future because there's still uncertainty about the regulations and everything. But it's here, at the end of the day. And that means that everything we own, your mobile phone, your laptop, family heirloom, will have a digital identity that digital assets currently have, And for now, what we're doing is that we have to manually come up with a list of everything that we own. But think about what that record that I'm talking about, digital identity, will do. You don't have to do that. You don't have to manually compile it. So what will happen is that everything that you, for example, purchase may be automatically connected to your estate plan. So think of a concept such as Internet of Things. So if you want to buy anything of value, the purchase will automatically be assigned to your digital identity, right? And automatically store that, information, online or in some other digital format. And then you can now choose to share that information with your estate planner. Or it may be even more seamless. So that purchase can be automated. So maybe your estate planner will be notified automatically. It depends on what, for example, you put in your trust deed. So these are the kind of things that we're looking at right now. And that's where the world is going. So there'll be an automatic connection between your digital identity, your digital assets, and your estate plan. That's the future.
Great. This sounds like a seamless experience. I think this point is particularly important because a lot of individuals find it difficult to manually draw up a list or manually draw up a list of inventory of their assets. Yes. A lot of individuals. Yes. And on the other hand, we also have individuals who prefer the traditional mode of asset management. Yes. And it behoves on us as professionals and as trust advisors to identify these preferences based on each individual in carrying out our obligations. And thank you, Seun. This has been an enlightening session. And I think at this point, we would give room for questions. So the first question goes like this. How can I be guaranteed that my will is valid if it is done online without the input of a lawyer physically?
Okay, so thank you for that question. It's quite a simple answer. So your will is valid, first of all, because the whole portal was put together by combined or designed by a combined team of lawyers, finance people, and IT people. So, of course, anything that's designed by lawyers has to be valid. So we've taken a lot of things into consideration. You know, what it is really is that yes, it's a do-it-yourself tool, quite all right. But think about it: people have been writing their wills by themselves for a long time, without even lawyers involved. But it is advised that lawyers should be involved, so that because as a layman, you don't know what to avoid yet, what pitfalls could be there. So yes, get it, a lawyer. But this is an e-will, do-it-yourself product that's been designed for people who are just starting out. So the idea is that you can start with the easy will. We also have a comprehensive will product in-house. So for people who are just starting out in life, who have a few assets, go with the easy will. It's better than not having any plan at all or any will at all. Go with the easy will, download it, take it to the probate registry yourself. That makes it valid. Every will has to be lodged in the probate registry at the High Court. That makes it valid, and so to the question of validity, it's valid. Whether you need a physical lawyer or not, it's designed by lawyers. So I think that sort of answers the question, and totally valid. There are no regulations against it. There are no laws against writing wills yourself. So that's it. But like I said, it's basic. If you need more advanced services, if you have complicated family issues, for example, you have a second wife, you have any of those things, children, from different mothers or from different fathers, then you will look at a comprehensive will. There's so many other things to consider, but look at it as a tool that you can start with if you are young, if you are just starting out, you have a few assets and all that. So that's the answer to that question.
Thank you very much, Seun. So the next question goes like this. I have seen a situation where hackers hack into websites. For example, what happened with Yahoo years ago? How do I know my will won't be hacked? Okay, so I'm going to take this question. Like Seun said, the portal was designed by IT professionals, and we have ensured to include different layers of security while building this portal. So it's basically foolproof against spyware, malware, all sort of wares, quote and unquote, and it is protected, especially as it relates to a will writing, which is confidential in nature. Yeah. So we've put into consideration the essence of confidentiality while building this portal. So yes, you are rest assured that this is safe against hackers. Thank you. So there is another question, and it goes like this. I have a lot of coins in my Bitcoin wallet. How can I include this in my estate plan for future generation?
Okay, great question. It's a burning question. How do you include these digital assets? We're back to digital assets in an estate plan, especially digital assets that are of an intangible nature, and of a volatile nature. So we know, for example, that one of the features of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies generally is that they're volatile. But how do you include them? Yes, you can include them in an estate plan. It's being done all over the world right now. But I can assure you that the issue of Bitcoin in or a wallet in an estate plan is something that is not for an e-will, for example. It will be for either a comprehensive will or
Trust.
a trust, you know. But it's something that you have to sit down with us to discuss. Of course, well, of course, have to understand the nature of the currencies or the assets, you know, as we have put it, and then design something specifically for you. The beauty of you know, estate planning and what we do is that for every client that we sit down with, and you can attest to that, there's something bespoke, you know, for them. So we have to sit down with you and design something specifically suited to you, you know. So when it comes to your wallet, your Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, then we simply have to sit down with you and understand the nature of that asset, you know, and then craft a deed around it, a plan for it around it. So that answers the question. I'm sure that we'll delve deeper later on in later editions, episodes.
Okay.
And how specifically to treat this, but I think that answers the question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sean. So we have another question, and I think that will be the final one we'll take for this episode. It goes like this. What happens if at the point of devolving a digital asset to the next generation, the asset has lost its value due to the volatile nature of such assets? What do I do? Well, I'll take this question and I would say that, okay, our obligation as professionals is that we assist you in devolving these assets to another generation. However, as regards the value of that assets, we cannot ascertain as it is outside the purview of our obligation or of our responsibility. So we cannot ascertain the value. So long as it is listed as an asset that belongs to the testator or the settlor, we just assist in creating that structure whereby it will be transferred seamlessly to the next generation. Yes. As regards the value, we cannot ascertain the value of that asset. So I hope this answers your question. So this would be the end of today's episode, and we thank you very much for joining us. You can always reach us on the email address displayed on the screen, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode. Thank you once again. Bye for now.
ARM, invested in your tomorrow.